People who think that they can make random statements about me being adopted, how I must feel like, how I must think like, and how my biological parents and my own parents must feel about me. But it's not always as simple as it seems like. Here are the biggest misconceptions about adoption. 1. You are lucky. Telling me I am lucky for being adopted is like telling someone they are lucky for being born. You don't have any control over that. It just happens to you. In other words, telling me I am lucky are just empty words. It doesn't mean anything. And by telling me that I am lucky, it implies that I cannot complain about, the struggles I've been through because of adoption. It implies that I deserve my luck. And also implies that children who didn't get adopted weren't lucky enough and didn't deserve that luck. When I was young, I've heard the word luck a lot. You are lucky. I always got a very uncomfortable feeling when I heard people telling me that I am lucky. I'd rather believe in random coincidences, for which I'm grateful for, but I don't really believe in luck. 2. You must be so sad. When I introduce myself to new people and when I tell them I am adopted from China, there's usually this small pause, and afterwards the question follows, do you know your biological parents? And after giving my answer, no, I don't know them, there's this awkward pause and then a response, which is usually, oh, you must be so sad about it. And I've always wondered how do people want me to react? Is there a right way to respond and answer this question? My honest answer is yes, it sometimes freaking sucks, but I don't need your pity. I don't consider myself sad because I never knew any better. What I feel is way more complicated than just being sad. 3. Your biological parents didn't love you. By sharing my story on the internet, I have to deal with a lot of unfiltered opinions of other people. And although most comments are very nice, respectful, and sincere, there are some comments that really shock me. And normally I try to learn from comments that might oppose my own views and my own opinions. But some comments were just full-on bullshit, and I think they need to be addressed. So for all the people who tell me that my biological parents don't love me, what the hell? Although I have never been a mother yet, I cannot imagine the pain a mother has to go through when they have to give up their child. And blaming someone who gave up their child, assuming they did it because they didn't love the baby hard enough, is just so shallow, I think. Because you don't know the exact circumstances of the mother and the family. You don't know what kind of support they had, if they even have support. And you don't know the consequences the family had to deal with. In China, the one child policy, aka heavy fines or imprisonment. And the arguments of mothers who say that they would never give up the child. Okay, good for you, you are a good mom, but you were never under those exact same circumstances as those mothers who had to give up the child. So how can you judge them and blame them? It's not only unfair to the biological mother and the family, it's also unfair to the child itself. And when I was young, I never really doubted whether my biological family loved me or not, because my parents always told me and taught me that no matter the reason for leaving me behind, my biological parents loved me. And when I got older, I started to see it this way. Their love for me was so great that they had to let me go, and therefore letting me go for them was their way to show me that they do love me. 4. You should move on and forget about your past. There are some people who told me that I should just move on and forget about my past. And I wish it was as simple as that, but it's not. What happened to us adoptees is kind of the same trauma as losing a loved one. But instead of knowing that loved one, getting the chance to build a strong relationship with them, we never got that chance. And I understand that it's really difficult for outsiders to comprehend that. But can you, as someone who knows their biological parents, imagine a reality in which you don't know them? I don't think you really can. So you can't really tell other people who are in that situation to just move on and forget about it. We adoptees have to live with a loss of history, a loss of our roots, our story, our family, and identity. And by openly talking about it, we also sort of heal from it. And I believe that you can grow and you can move on. But at the same time, reflect on what happened in your past, trying to understand your past, your emotions and feelings, and also have questions about them. 5. You don't belong anywhere. So if I'm in my home country, people who don't know me won't usually assume I am Dutch based on my looks. But if I am in China and I start to talk to people and they figure out I don't speak any Chinese and also don't understand it, they think I am an outsider too. I used to work in a Chinese restaurant, and I had this very interesting Chinese boss. The first time I met her, she was really confused by me. She told me it was such a shame, such a waste that I didn't know anything about my motherland, about my culture and language. A similar situation happened when I used to work at an Asian grocery store. There was this Chinese guy who came up to me and asked something in Mandarin, but I don't speak any Mandarin or understand. So I told him, I'm sorry, I can't understand you, I can't help you. And then he just laughed in my face and walked away. At times I felt lonely and I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. I didn't belong because I didn't look like the people around me, or I didn't belong because when I was surrounded with people who looked like me, I couldn't communicate with them. But I also learned something from this. I learned that the feeling of belonging can only be found from within yourself. And I know it sounds cheesy, but the feeling of belonging isn't necessarily found in just one nation, one group, one community, or one culture. I think it can be found if you first 100% accept yourself. And afterwards, a community can of course help with that. But it all starts with self-acceptance. And after realizing that, I started to understand that I can belong everywhere if I really want to. 6. You can't miss something you never had. Am I allowed to miss something I never had? Like my biological family? Can I say I miss them even though I don't know them? Can I miss a country I never lived in or experienced? And can I miss a culture I never grew up with? People tell me I am ripped away from my motherland, my roots, my culture, my country. I mean, I was just 1.5 years old when I got adopted, and I don't really remember anything from that time. So can I miss the life I could have had when I didn't get adopted? And the answer? Yes, I think I can. I like to compare this with the nurture versus nature theory, and it's a theory about what makes us us. Is it our genetics or the environment we grew up in? But I think for me it's 50-50, it's both. Because I am the environment I grew up in. I am the lessons and values taught by my parents and my surroundings. But I'm also genetically different. And although culture and language can't be found in your DNA, but being surrounded by my own people who share the same DNA, who look like me, my own blood and roots, is something I can miss and is something I can long for. And I know family is not always based on blood, and I agree with that. But still, I think there's always this connection with your blood relatives. Whether this is a good connection, depends on the person. But you can't deny there exists some connection. Me wanting to learn about these connections, about my own bloodline, should not be something to be ashamed of. And I think it's my birthright to know where I am from, to know my history. And I think that longing to find answers to this, it's all but natural. And I think it's every adoptee's right to find their biological family, to be reunited with their lost family members, to reconnect with their culture, their country, and to fully heal from the trauma that comes with being adopted.